Blog Talk Radio.
Hello everyone, this is Chrism, and I would like to invite you to a conversation about your Kundalini awakening experiences. And as usual, I want to welcome everybody in the archives and everybody in the chat room and everybody listening on their computer, their telephone, or on their landline. And I'm just going to dive right in. Here we go. Sacred contracts. Kundalini is the most important sacred contract that you can make. The contract that you make with Kundalini is not like a contract that you make for your car insurance or your house insurance, or an employment contract or a prenuptial agreement or anything like this. You don't get any of the leeways. You don't get any of the leeways that those opportunities give a person. And it's very important for you to understand that, once you're inside of a Kundalini contract, it's a very, very, very different deal. It's a very different deal. It's far more about what you can do for your Kundalini rather than what it is your Kundalini can do for you. And this is an important concept to keep in mind. It's about how you can live up and within that contractual agreement that you've made with the Kundalini. And let me get a little more into the contractual agreement. You give your life. You give the control of your life. You give your love. You give control of your love. You give your mind. You give control of your mind. You give your body. You give control of your body. Anything and everything that you will ever do or become is given to the Kundalini. You become a point of divine radiance, and that radiance takes you over. It takes you over, and no, you're not walking around looking like a little candle flame, except for some people who can see it that way. But you are walking around, you're interacting with other people, you're interacting with your environment, you're interacting with your family. Right now I'm talking with you on the eve of Thanksgiving, the eve of the great holiday season here in the United States, and the entrance into the Christmas the Christmas season. For Western Europe, parts of Asia, parts of many, many different parts of the world are coming into the whole Christmas commercialism scenario right now. And it's very important for people to understand that once you make a contract with the Kundalini or a compact, you don't get out of it. And if you make a contract or an agreement within the Kundalini that you say, as God is my witness, or as Kundalini is my witness, or I give myself in these certain ways, these are permanent agreements. These are agreements that never, ever, 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 ever go away. And they have, there's a certain amount of, I don't like to use the word teeth, but there are teeth to them. I mean, when you make an agreement with the Kundalini, say, well, Kundalini and me, I agree to be a more forgiving individual, and I make that contract with you. I make that agreement with you. I'm going to be a more forgiving individual in my life and how I relate to people I know, my family members, and people I don't know, perfect strangers. I am going to be a more forgiving person. And you've made that compact, that contract with the Kundalini, and therefore you absolutely must live up to that contract, to that agreement. And you'll be tested in those ways. The Kundalini listening to you, knowing you, understanding what your intentions are, why you're all of a sudden making this contract with the Kundalini, why it is you're doing it. She knows your motivations. And you get to the point where you can actually make that commitment Well, that's a very, very big deal, and you need to really get your head around that. And if you're at the feet of your teacher and you're giving devotion to your teacher, and your teacher says, okay, I want you to make a commitment this way or that, you must do that, because it is the Kundalini that brought you to that teacher, and it's that teacher's Kundalini connection to you that allows you to even consider making such a step, a forward step in your process. And let me tell you, making a contract and a commitment and an agreement with the Kundalini within these standards is a very, very, very good thing. It shows you that you are able to make this commitment and that you're willing to live up to that commitment. You may not be perfect with it. You may have to self-correct. So, for instance, with the forgiveness, sometimes you won't be as mindful as perhaps you would like to be, and you'll be walking across the street and somebody pulls by in a car and splashes water on you from a street puddle. And and oh my God, there you are, and you're walking around in the rain with your dazzling white outfit on, with your white shoes, your white socks, your white tie, your white coat, your white pants, your white belt, your white watch band. And oh my God, look what's just happened. Now you have white and mud, kind of black and white, brown and white, and you must forgive. This would be the opportunity for you to just jump in and forgive in these areas. And if you've made that contract with the Kundalini, then you must begin to do this. The fact that there are teeth to it just means that there's blowback if you don't. Either you get tested hard, or you get, if you're coming out of a fragmentation, or even especially if you're within a fragmentation. Let's just pretend that Chrism's inside of a fragmentation, and Chrism says to the Kundalini, Kundalini and me, listen to my words. I make a commitment to you right now, a solemn, sacred commitment to you, my Kundalini. I will be a much, much more forgiving person than I currently am in my life experience. And with your help and with your end of this agreement, let my forgiveness expand exponentially all around and to everyone I interact with and everything I interact with. Thank you, my Kundalini. I commit myself to this agreement for the rest of my life. Boom! Now, I just made a real commitment. That was a true commitment. You don't get to just bandy about these words. I just made an absolute, true commitment to my Kundalini to be an even more forgiving person than I already am. And I'm going to suggest that it's going to be the same thing with you. Okay, you have very, very, very specific commitments to live up to. Let's just say one of them would be perhaps to let go of your fear. Maybe some of you have made a commitment to let go of your fear, and oh my gosh, and let's just say that maybe you didn't really understand what it was you were saying when you made the agreement with the Kundalini. Maybe you just didn't quite get the concept. Maybe you weren't taking it very seriously. And all of a sudden, you find yourself being tested with more fear than you could have ever imagined. Ever imagined. And this fear is creeping up on you, and of course that's causing you to do what? Go into fear. But what in reality is occurring is Kundalini is giving you an opportunity to live up to your commitments. To live up to your commitments. Especially the commitments to the divine grace that is within you. You can't lie to yourself. You can't lie to the Kundalini that's within you. You can't say something. There's no such thing as a throwaway comment. Everything is being heard. Everything is being remembered. Everything, there's an engram that is being formed for every memory, for everything that you say. So you need to really understand this and really form a sound basis for you to have your commitments with the Kundalini intact and being followed by you all the time. Kundalini can sometimes seemingly trick you. She'll trick you. Let's just say, for instance, a lot of people that have a flesh teacher, when they're in the resistance phase to the flesh teacher, they'll always want to go to the energetic Kundalini because they're not comfortable, giving themselves to the flesh teacher as much as they would want to be at that point. And so they'll always want to go to the energetic Kundalini within them, which I think is fine. But I mean, for purposes of accepting a flesh teacher, well, you've got to go to the flesh teacher too. And so as you make that commitment to the energetic Kundalini, she's going to swing it right around, and she's going to have you make a commitment through the teacher to that flesh teacher, because it's harder in the United States, in Western Europe, and other countries of the Western persuasion. It's harder for a person to give themselves to a flesh teacher than it is to an energetic teacher. And this may not be the case in Bangladesh or Ceylon or Indonesia or India or Pakistan or in the Tibetan areas and some of the other areas, where this is far more of a natural process. But in the West, OMG, that is a very, very, very difficult concept for people to get up to, and people are raised from infancy. Never bow to a man or another human being. Oh my God, never bow thine head to thine flesh outside of you. I mean, it's part of the mischaracterization of Christianity that has occurred in the West, but it's also a level of hubris that you are all that there is, and you don't need to bow down to anybody. And it's just a real level of fixated ego targeting that our society has used against us in a way that locks us into the ego expression. I remember in my younger years, I was closely associated with very, very, very high caliber entertainers, movie stars, and comedians, and I was part of a team that would arrange their transportation from here to there, and I would see them a lot. And I remember one of them came up to me and said, "Hey, Chris, I'm willing to help you in your career. You just let my manager know, you let my agents know, and they'll take you on." But I was so wrapped up in my little egotistical self, and I thanked them, and I thanked them very, very profusely, because that was a very big gift to give a person, an 18-year-old that is helping you with your transportation, and but I declined. In my head, I declined. I said, I don't need help from anybody. I know it's hard to imagine Chrism saying things like that. But, it was very true. Chrism back then said, I don't need help from anybody. If I can't do it myself, then it ain't worth doing. Not realizing the stupidity of that statement or that thought, because we are all interconnected with each other. We're connected with the environment, the dirt, the trees, the leaves, the ocean, the air, the clouds, each other, the animals. We're all connected, and we all can bond together and begin to help each other. But that wasn't on my mind at the time. The only thing that was on my mind at the time was my ego corruption. And so it took me many, many years before I could understand how important it is to be able to trust a divine instruction, an instruction that tells you to get a flesh teacher and then to give to that flesh teacher the same way that you would give to the Kundalini energetic. Because one is causing the other, and the other is supporting the one that caused it. Clear as mud? So the thing is when you make these divine agreements and you make these divine communions in a way, because they're more than agreements. There's an energetic valuation to it. I mean, when you make that divine commitment 3 times, that's a trinity, and that's making the commitment within the Kundalini context. Now, I can just see some of you out there reaching for your commitment book and going, okay, Kundalini, I want $1 million for Christmas in my stocking from a secret Santa, and I want to be able to use that $1,000,000 and have the health and the time that I need in my life to be able to spend that money in the way that I want to spend it. And that becomes their commitment. It just becomes more of a prayer than anything, and a selfish prayer at that. Unless, of course, the person is going to use it for beneficial reasons, for the benefits of other people. What are you doing for that commitment? What are you doing for that prayer? How are you going to give energy into that situation that allows that prayer to come to fruition? What are you going to do? Why do you think Divine is just going to sit there and go, oh, God, let me write that check? How does that help you? Well, one way I'm going to tell you is I want you to go back into the archives on these shows and look at the Huna Power Prayer, HUNA Power Prayer, and use that. That is a device. That is a prayer device that is very, very effective, and it get you exactly what you're looking for, unless you're asking to get out of a divine commitment, and that's going to be a little more difficult to do. But you just got to remember that the Kundalini within you is listening to you, and it understands what your reasons would be for wanting to leave a divine commitment. And it may just grant that for you, but it may not at the same time. There may be levels of teaching that it wants to give you with regards to keeping your commitments and not getting rid of them when the times are tough, because the commitment isn't always going to be easy. So you may or may not be allowed out of the contract, but yeah, you'll have to just stick with it. I remember other aspects. Sometimes you want to be very, very careful about things that you handle, especially things of a metaphysical purpose. I went to a metaphysical conference in South Lake Tahoe one day, and there was this guy. This is like a big melange of people. Little booths of this or that and techniques here and there. And I walked up to this one guy, and he had these strange charts with all these sacred geometrical figures on them, and he says, here, this is what you do, and he had me trace my fingers around certain geometrical formations, and wham, I felt an energetic shift. And I thought, whoa, what was that? Well, I had just made a contract with a whole group of entities that were collecting human consciousness. And I was in the process of being entrapped by that group. And it took me a long time to get myself clear of that agreement. And so I want you to be very, very careful about what you touch, what you read, what you think, what you say. Be very, very mindful. If you have a Kundalini flesh teacher, then you have a lot less to worry about, because that person is controlled and ruled by the Kundalini, and therefore it is a flesh mouthpiece for that inner Kundalini divine, and so you have a lot less to be concerned with. But if you're just like at a psychic fair or things of that nature, be very, very, very careful what you participate in, especially when it has to do with your tactility and your ocular focus at the same time. Don't make the mistake I made. I got out of it. Eventually, I got out of it, but it took me a while. It was fairly traumatic because, all of a sudden you're in an area that you don't understand. You don't know what's going on. You don't know what the rules are. And, it took me a while to find out that I had to get passionately angry at this entity and do some fairly, shall we say, have some strong conversations, not all of them verbal, with this entity before the entity got the understanding that I wasn't going to play that game. And all of you can do this too. You don't have to, you don't have to have this Kundalini for 26 years. You can have it as long as you've had it at this point. But you got to realize that, enough is enough with entity stuff sometimes, and you just begin. You get into a mindset where you're going to thrash them. I had the same thing happen to me with the incubi and the succubi. They kept coming on wanting to harvest sexually, like they always do. That's their food. They're like mosquitoes, and they land on you and they try to to do what they're going to do. And I told them 3 times to stop it, 3 separate nights. The 4th time they did it, I was allowed to instantly transport myself to where they were on the astral and to give them a different kind of an understanding. Okay, and this is in agreement with the Kundalini within me. I am allowed to do this because I've given myself to Kundalini, and I've given myself body, mind, soul, spirit to that inner divine, and that inner divine will allow me to make certain mistakes, that I may learn certain lessons that will allow me to help others not make the same mistakes. Okay, that's been part of my contract with the Kundalini. My contract or agreement with the Kundalini is fairly open-ended. She gets to kind of do anything she wants. Anything he wants as well. Let's not leave out the sacred male. You get to a certain point, and it's not just Shakti anymore. It's Shakti and Shiva. It's sacred male and sacred female calling the shots through your one body. And that's something that you really want to also begin to understand. And when you start feeling the heat coming through consistently, well, you know that you have the fingerprint of the sacred male upon you. When you make these contracts and these commitments and these agreements, you want to be very, very, very trusting. It's good to take a chance. It's good to take a chance within the Kundalini because that forms a stronger bond of trust within the Kundalini. So it's very, very good to make these contracts and these commitments. Just make sure that you follow up on them. Don't make the commitment and say, oh, well, today it's going to rain and, I haven't, I got dog shit on my shoes and I got to clean that up and, I don't have time to do what I committed to do to the Kundalini. That is not what you want to do. There is never an excuse not to fulfill the commitment to the Kundalini because she is working 24/7. He is working 24/7 to fulfill that commitment to you and more. Because there are divine commitments that you don't even know about. There are commitments that you made before you even took the body. And you did take the body. The body that your mother and father made for you, you took. And you helped to nurture it. You helped to grow it in very specific ways. It's almost like you had a blueprint of that body and the genetics of that body. You had a blueprint of that body. And that in and of itself is also a divine commitment, a divine agreement to take that body. So I don't care how your body looks to you within the eyes of your ego and society. That body that you have right now, listening to this program, is a gift of grace to you. And you nurture it, and you take care of it, and you keep your divine commitment. You keep your divine commitment to that. Just a second here. I got to let Her Holiness in. Come on in. Sorry. All right. Just a second, folks. It's getting a little too much like the Sahara in here. Okay, all right. Oh, there goes that chair. Okay, all right. So when you make this divine commitment, don't make it as a way of escapism. Don't make it as a way of ignoring your responsibilities. Don't make it a way where you can, in some other way, skirt the responsibilities of grace that it has given to you and what is implied within that contract. It is not a way to skirt responsibilities. It is not a way to skirt or to deny yourself the hard work that some of those divine commitments can entail. A lot of that is, oh, great. Thank you, Manisha. Manisha says the sound is great. Yeah, good. I forgot to do that. Thank you, Manisha, very much. And so let's just say you've made a divine commitment. You've given yourself to your flesh teacher. You've given yourself to the Kundalini. You've given yourself into a commitment, and it's hard. It's really hard, and it's frightening. Let's just say you find yourself with an entity inside you. Let's say you find yourself with an entity inside you that is committing what you feel like harm, committing harm to you, closing off your airway or screaming foul language into your ears or in some other way obscuring the serenity of your life. Well, if you've made a commitment to the Kundalini, then you can begin to understand that this is only a test. This is a test of the divine. Part of a test of the divine is to trust it, to have faith in it. And so when you make these divine commitments, make them with the understanding that you're going to be tested. Your faith is going to be tested, and your trust is going to be tried. It's going to be tried so that it becomes truth, so that it becomes a solid understanding that you have made with the divine. So, so within the context of having that entity that's causing you to lose your serenity, you go straight to your divine. You say, I fulfill my contract with you. I fulfill my agreement with you. I will not be afraid of this entity, and I will not allow it to control my serenity, for it to control my inner peace. I will make it understand that it does not have that option. And if I have done anything to support its presence in my life and in my biological system, I am going to reverse those agreements. With an agreement that is not of divinity, of not direct concordance with, like, say, Kundalini divine, those agreements can be broken. So if you unknowingly made an agreement with a Ouija board, well, that agreement can be broken. But if you knowingly make an agreement with the Kundalini, that cannot be broken. And if you do break that, you're gonna experience some sort of blowback. And I'm not saying that Kundalini is out there with this giant sword just waiting for you to screw up on your agreement. I'm not saying that at all. What I'm saying is that, first of all, Kundalini is very forgiving, and it knows why you might not be in agreement with whatever it is you've agreed to. It knows this. And so it may not treat you so harshly as my words may be indicating for you. But it will understand if you're just doing something out of fear, or just doing something out of laziness, or just doing something because you want more of an ego input into your life. Tika, stop that. Leave Lasha alone. I've got a wolf and a cat here. Both creatures of Kundalini. And they're friendly. It's amazing. Talk about agreements. But, so if you have any questions about sacred agreements with the Kundalini, give us a call. We have a New York City area code 347, prefix 934, and then 0026. That's 347-934-0026. And we welcome all your calls, and Her Holiness Amelia Centaura will be there to pick up the phone. And and if you have some sort of an idea of giving us a little sex thing, fooling us, because we don't get that 5-second delay here, put it on the shelf. I mean, geez Louise, get a control of your gonads, please. And if you need to, if that's what gets you off, go to another show and get yourself off that way. Right now, we have some very important things to discuss, and I want to, I don't want people to call in if they're just like, doing that type of thing. So within the understandings of a contract with the Kundalini, you must live up to your end of it. You must live up to your end of it, and you must trust the reason why it has been even offered to you. And you must trust. If your Kundalini teacher has told you to do that, your flesh teacher, then you must trust that your flesh teacher has your best interests at heart. And to really, really, really dive deep and go into that trust. And as I've said before in many of the other programs, in order to build trust and to build faith, you can't know the answers. Otherwise, you don't need to have trust or faith. So you must trust. You must trust. And this is, for those of us that have been hurt, for those of us that have been, damaged by giving our love to the wrong people, or giving our trust to the wrong person, company, or situation, and we've been damaged by that, well, I can totally understand your reticence. But with the Kundalini, that cannot be the case for you. You must reach in and find a way to develop stronger levels of trust, stronger levels of agreement with the Kundalini within you. Okay, it's very important that you do this. And I'm going to bring Her Holiness on here. Run, Amelia, run, and you're on. Hello.
Running. Hi, Chrism. Hi, everybody. Good to be here.
And how are you, my dear?
I am very well, thank you. Thank you indeed. Yeah. So,
have you made a contract with the Kundalini?
Yeah. Well, when my Kundalini awakened, and that was in 2007, and I found Yahoo and I found you in 2009, and I really trusted my Kundalini, and I knew that I was to go deeper and deeper into surrender, and I was looking for ways that I could do this, that I could give control of my life to Kundalini, and I was doing that as best as I could, but I knew there was more, and so I also did give a contract not only to my Kundalini but also to my flesh teacher, which is you. So my flesh teacher works with my Kundalini, and my flesh teacher is the voice of my Kundalini, really. It's amazing because I know that you were talking a while ago about the energetic teacher and the flesh teacher, and the energetic teacher is just so incredibly, I can't put words on it, but by having a flesh teacher, the contract becomes something that is not so easily escaped from. Does that make sense? It becomes very defined for me, or that's at least how I experienced it. It became very defined. And it's, for me anyway, it's the two that are one. It's another example of the two that are one, the energetic teacher and the flesh teacher. And the contract that I have made with both, which I've only really made with one. And that's probably as clear as mud.
Well, we have Raven Eyes, just asked a question. He says, she says, if one is being tortured by the divine and it wants to kill you, as 1/3 of the awakened commit suicide and not in a loving, gentle way, do you resist the death or do you surrender to it? First of all, divinity will never, ever, ever attack you, number one. Second of all, divinity does not want to kill you either. It's very pro-life. And thirdly, it is not 1/3 of the awakened commit suicide. It's 1/4. It's 1/4 that will typically commit suicide if they have to. Certainly not 1/3. And so it's really, really important for people to understand that the divine will not torture you. Okay? Mm-hmm. The divine will not torture you. And the divine does not want to kill you. Ever. Ever. Now, you can have an entity, which is typically the source of this type of an instruction. You can have an entity that is posing as the divine, and this entity is a corrupted entity. First, by even posing as the divine, you see the corruption right there. But as posing as divine, it wants to torture you, or to hurt you, or to kill you, that is not of the divine. And that is something that you can ask your Kundalini to help you with. And part of the way that you help with that part of the way they help you with that is by giving you challenges, giving you, say, an embedded entity. And a lot of people have an embedded entity that came to them by virtue of the Kundalini. And that embedded entity can cause many, 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 many different problems with an individual. One person is having the throat artificially closed, and that makes it very difficult to sleep. And so you have to really begin to trust the Kundalini and not that entity when it comes to this type of a scenario, because you're being deprived of sleep. You're being put into sleep depth, which is another way of saying that you're being placed into an altered state so that you can kick that thing out of you. Kick that demon right out of you. Okay? But you have to go into an altered state in many ways in order to even have that done. And Ravenese goes on and says, why do they kill themselves? And then he mentions some book by some writer. I personally, I don't think. First of all, he's quoting a Kundalini yoga source, which is probably the worst source for Kundalini information that a person can have. And some guy named Swami this or that speaks about an awakened man who chose to leave this earth when he was ready. And I'll tell you what, the ego in the human being is never the arbiter of life upon this world in a spiritual evolutionary context. The ego can just say, oh man, I've had enough of this crap, I'm out of here. Boom, there goes the shotgun. Now, no. This is not something that a person's ego gets to have. It is not a choice that a person's ego gets to have. Remember the contract of taking the body in the first place. Remember that contract to nurture the body, to exercise the body, to keep the body healthy, to keep it as long as divine determines it is necessary for that person to live. And Raven, it doesn't really, I don't care what the name of the Swami is, and it really doesn't matter to me at all. These people are not, they're incorrect. Kundalini yoga, for crying out loud, that's just copying what awakened people already do naturally. I mean, you got to make the shift, Ravenese. You got to make the shift from a copycat to somebody who's authentically activated and awakened with Kundalini. Stop with the yoga. This is not about yoga. This is not about bowing your head to some guy with a black beard that brought yoga to the West in the 1970s and oh, by the way, owns a security company, owns a tea company called Yogi. This is not about that. This is about what yoga wants to awaken within a person. This is about the divine awakened within the individual. This is about making those agreements with that divine incarnate source within you. And this is about not believing what people that don't have Kundalini are telling you. And that would be most of the swamis or mullahs or priests or priestesses or teachers or whatever that are teaching yoga. They don't have a clue. They're great with yoga. Believe me, they know what an asana is. They know how to show you the asana. They know how to perhaps help you into that certain position, but they don't know anything about awakening, and they will kick you out of your yoga class because you're disruptive. You're having kriyas, or you're having manifestations of the truth coming through you, but the truth is not acceptable to them because they don't have reference points for it. Don't take advice from people that don't have the awakened Kundalini. Do not take advice from those people. They're lovely people. They're wonderful, beautiful people that are doing their very best, and they're very loving and very happy, but they are not a good source for Kundalini awakened information. And Raven News goes on and says, I only read this book because the K guided me to it. That's pretty much it. But it's not bad, not something I really would look up to. I have no need to practice yoga so much. But there are useful tools in this book, and it's okay to read. With the level of information that you've apparently gotten from that book, Ravenese, I would say no. I would say put that book back on the shelf, or at least look at it as a way of not understanding. Yes, Santara.
I'm going to go to the studio phone lines now, Chrism, okay?
Okay. Yeah, it is not okay to read, and I would also look at what you think is the Kundalini that sent you to the book. Maybe it just wants you to do yoga. Maybe it just wants you to do some yoga. Doesn't mean it wants you to pay attention to the guy that wrote the book about Kundalini awakening. Yeah, I know who this Swami is, and I've read some of his stuff before, and he's just not correct all the time. It's a language barrier or a translation barrier, but he's got some challenged things to say. And, just his percentage breakdown is clue enough for me. Okay, so let's see here. Looks like we had a caller, and it's Josephine. Hello, Josephine. So useful tools. If the tools are not of the safety protocols, then I'll question some of those tools unless they're in some way reverberating with the safety protocols. And I know that I'm operating from a very narrow standpoint when I only ascribe efficacy to the safety protocols, but that's because they were written by the Kundalini itself. And that source took it from every anthropological expression of humanity in the world, basically, at least the ones that we can trace and know of, from the Aborigines to the Hindu, to the sacred Christian, to the Buddhist, to the Islam, to all of it. There are pointers there within those safety protocols that reflect humanity having Kundalini. Not somebody in a certain religion having Kundalini. Not somebody, it's not about a religious option that people can choose to take. It's not about that at all. Because after a while, religion loses its efficacy within Kundalini. It doesn't make sense with it anymore, because the Kundalini will give divine truth to a book that has information in it that is not prepared to digest that information. So that information source becomes at odds with what the divine is telling you. You have to go with what your divinity is telling you. And let's also look at that discernment of what is divine within you and what isn't. You always look for divinity within you in the way that allows you to be very, very clear that divinity is what is calling the shots within you, not an entity. Now, these swamis and these other people, they don't speak of entities at all. Some people do. It's rare to find on the internet, but some people will actually speak of the entities. But these other guys, they just don't, they're just oblivious to the entities because they don't want to help you deal with it, because they know they can't help you deal with it. And a lot of people will just sit back and go, well, my young student, well, this is your karma speaking to you loud and clear. Here we are. And so it's just not that way. It's like that was kind of a low-riding Swami imitation. I think the low-rider came through a little bit there, which is a Mexican gangbanger to some degree. So I don't know where that came from. So when you're determining, whether it's the divine grace that's speaking through you or an entity, you just got to look at the actions it takes upon your body. Is it choking you? Is it yelling at you? Is it screaming at you? Is it cussing at you? Is it telling you to hurt yourself? Is it telling you to hurt other people? Is it telling you to commit a crime? Is it telling you to be helpful and kind and considerate? And what is it doing? And if it's following noble behaviors, then I think you have a good case for looking at that within a divine context. But don't be so much in a hurry. Test it out. Vet, V-E-T, vet that source. Watch to see how it proves itself as good or not good. And then make your choice on what you think is occurring with you. And if it's not occurring with you, say, if it's causing you to have great levels of fear and great levels of concern, then go to the Kundalini and ask the Kundalini to help you with this entity. And you will actually be given ideas and understandings that will help you help yourself within that entity context. But if you don't trust yourself, if you don't trust the Kundalini, well, you have to, you're going to have to try to do that in some way, somewhere. But if you don't, go straight to the safety protocols and use those protocols as a way of determining the value of that source within you. If it tells you to stop the safeties, then it's not the divine source within you. If it encourages you to do the safeties in a way that is helpful not only for yourself but for other people, for the environment, for animals, then you have a greater indication that this is a divine source, and you can give greater levels of trust within it. Okay. And remember, these are all communications that will form as contracts. You don't just get to ask the Kundalini free. You have to put yourself in a position where you are also responsible. You are also responsible for how you are, what you are, where you are, what you're doing, what you're not doing. You don't get to escape that simply because you're asking the Kundalini for help. You still have to make your own choices, or you have to make choices that you're guided to make by the Kundalini. And that will typically have a degree of difficulty with it. You'll have a degree of difficulty when the divine says, Chrism, I want you to deal with this entity inside you. Go to the safety protocols and practice those safety protocols. All the while, this entity is trying to choke you to death or scare you to pieces. It's going to be challenging. And it's supposed to be challenging. And a lot of you, if you've gone into a belief that, anything of a metaphysical value, well, that must be God. That must be grace. Oh, look, I was able to move the pencil without touching it. That must be God. That must be grace. I tell you what, that is not the case. Just because something's able to manifest, phenomena upon the physical world does not make it a bastion of grace. Get out of that thinking. That's a very, very unfortunate way to think, because entities can reach into the physical environment. They can dominate a person so much that they will make that person paint his face like a clown, have him collect as many weapons as he can collect, and go into a theater and shoot people up. Possession is possession, folks. That means you don't get to make any more choices. You are being controlled. And you are the one that's going to pay for whatever erroneous choices are being made through you. This is why I tell people not to do the channeling, not to do the mediumship, not to do Reiki, not to do any of these things that put yourself in the harm's way of becoming possessed by an entity. Okay. And let's see here. And Ravenese says, Dear Chrism, I'm trying to find a healing group as my thyroid and third chakra. Oh boy. Stop typing, please, Ravenese. Stop typing. Stop. Okay, I can't read it then. It's just going to keep pushing it up. So you don't want to trust something just based on phenomena. You don't want to trust them. You want to trust something that feels good, that feels the goodness, that has the goodness and the grace. That is what you want to go for. And you want to make sure that it's not just backed up by your feelings of it. It's got to be backed up by actions of it too. Let there be a trail of goodness, a trail of grace, a trail of kindness, of loving interaction with the environment and people and everything connected with how it is you're living your life in this world. Okay? All right. Now I'm going to go back to the chat room here, and hopefully, people will just stop typing so it stops pushing things up so that I can go back and I can read some of this stuff here. Stop typing, everyone. Stop typing. Okay. Oh boy. Here we go. I'm trying to, dear Chrism. Sorry, folks. Got to go all the way up here. Okay. Dear Chrism, I'm trying to find a healing group as my thyroid and third chakra have been poisoned by plastic particulates. Those plastic particulates. I always had a doubt about them. And furthermore, I cannot access the healing group on Facebook. It does not appear to me. Can you help me? So I would say put yourself on that, but actually just make sure you're a friend with me, and then I'll just add you to that healing group. I don't think you have been poisoned by plastic particulates. I don't know that plastic. I mean, I'm sure because plastic is an oil product that it can do that, and if you're breathing an environment. Oh, here we go. If you're breathing an environment that is full of like polystyrene or these plastic particulates without, God, I wish people would just stop talking. Okay, I just can't read this. You guys keep pushing it up. So I'm going to go ahead and skip this. When you make these agreements with the Kundalini, and let's talk about healing agreements too. You want to be healed in a certain way. And so you make an agreement that if the Kundalini helps you heal in a certain way, then you will do this, this, or that. Make sure you do this, this, or that. And for those of you on the chat group, I mean, every time I start reading it and start responding, you start typing again. It pushes it up right out of my view, and I spend more time finding it than reading it. And so type what you want, but I'm not going to be chasing dialogue, going up here. Okay? When you make a contract or an agreement with the Kundalini, you want to make sure you uphold your end of the deal. Let's just talk about Kundalini Kriyas. This is a very, very well-known aspect of it. As you have a Kriya, and let's just say, you're having a Kriya where you have an orgasm. This happens a lot with the females. So let's just say you're having orgasms every 6 to 9 minutes. And you're at a business meeting, and oh my God, I've already had 3 orgasms during the business meeting, and I don't know what to do. And I say, excuse yourself, go to the bathroom, have some more orgasms, and then ask the Kundalini not to give you orgasms as Kriyas during the business meetings, and give her the time during your evening and your off hours to have as many of those Kriyas as she wants to give to you. And you make sure that you set aside a block of time for that. Okay? You make sure that you do that. And you allow it to occur. Oh, jeez. I'm reading Ravenese again. Oh, my God. A soy sauce packet was accidentally ground into a smoothie and without realizing it after the fact, and it totally, no, that just comes out your fecal matter. You are not, I don't know who you're listening to, Ravenese. I mean, you need to stop talking to your friends or somebody like that. That is not going to give you plastic toxicity. Oh my word. I don't know where you got that. That's just going to come right out the fecal matter. Oh, and let's have any reason that we can have in order to panic. There is no source of toxic plastic poisoning in your system. And whatever is happening to your thyroid, it's probably more because of the Kundalini than because you ground up a soy sauce package in your smoothie and drank it. Seriously. Kundalini will have a definitive effect upon the thyroid. Make no mistake. And your third chakra really isn't about the thyroid, so I don't know where you're getting that. No, I mean, I think that you're perfectly safe, Ravenese. I think that you could grind 3 of those packets up into your smoothie and drink it. It's just going to come out the fecal waste. I'm not going to suggest it because those packages have a lot of salt in them. You don't need all that salt. But anyway, okay. So there you have it. If you want to think that it affected both, then go for it. That is your option. I'm looking at you and I'm not seeing it's affected either one. But if that's the way you want it to be, then of course I'm not going to be able to dissuade you. Okay. Sometimes people, make self-fulfilling prophecies, and this is common. This is not uncommon here. Just the idea that you ate a soy sauce packet, and with the knowledge that you swallowed that down, and then you go online and you go, oh, plastic toxicity, blah blah blah. Oh my God, it's like, oh God, psychosomatically you can put yourself in bed with the inability to get out of bed. So yeah, this is fully within your control. And it's in the control of a person's fear choices. Do you choose to take the fear choice? Or do you choose to take, shall we say, the alimentary canal choice? Where it just comes out the fecal matter and it goes into the sewage system and off you go, happy as a clam. Okay, so yeah. A lot of our choices with the Kundalini depends upon what level of fear we are encountering. And I'm going to suggest that you stop with the fear as best you can within the process that you're in right now. Choose to trust the Kundalini. Choose to trust that what you have is Kundalini based upon your verification. Based upon your verification. And I remember I told you verify it by testing it against the safeties. If it is in any way corrupting to you or corrupting to anybody else in any way, shape, or form, then you start looking the other way, walking away from that expression within you, which brings you right to the crucible of reversal. You start operating within the crucible of reversal, and you give yourself to that crucible, 100%. Which is basically a reversal of anything. So if you have that entity that's choking you off, well, you begin to visualize a clear esophagus, a clear airway all the time. You begin to manifest that upon yourself. Quit looking outside and start looking inside and start making some changes. Start taking the bull by the horns, as they say out here in the West. You take the bull by the horns and you start becoming proactive with your physiological, psychological health care. You start making a proactive strategy that allows you to have perfect health and perfect clarity of thought and perfect trust for your Kundalini. You take that and you do that. Okay. All right. Now let's see. It's 59, so I'm going to give the microphone, so to speak, to Her Holiness, the Queen of Questionable Comforts, Santara Kundalini. Hello, Santara.
Yoo! Can I just say something, Chrism, before I go on to share the website people can go to? You know, for me, may I?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. For me, you know, what you're saying there, the contract that I have and the safeties, the two of those things are really bound together for me. Like when I made this contract with my Kundalini to, you know, surrender everything, the safeties became part of that as well. They're hardly separate. So, like, I can say definitively that the Kundalini has never tortured me. Although sometimes, I mean, what I'm saying is sometimes I can feel tortured or I can feel in pain.
Did you say tortured?
No, did I? Tortured?
Well, I should hope it
but I never... Yeah, but I mean, you can feel tortured, and don't mock my my torture. Yeah, and like I can feel in pain, or you know, I'm struggling trying to understand things. I can even use the word agony sometimes, and I'm being bombarded. I'm just trying to deal with, you know, so many things sometimes. Sometimes there's entity intrusion, or you know, my ego explodes. But because of the contract and the safeties, that oneness with them, I know that, you know, I know that my torture is not Kundalini.
Your torture is not Kundalini?
Is not Kundalini. And that is it. So when I hear people saying, you know, the Kundalini tortures you, the Kundalini doesn't.
It never tortures you, yeah.
No. And so if you know that it's not the Kundalini, and if the safeties and your contract are together, you know, that you're rooted then, and you can focus on that, and you know, you realize that you're being offered choices by the Kundalini, that you're being tested by the Kundalini, and also really being taught, am I pronouncing that right, by the Kundalini? So yeah, I mean, the safeties are hugely important for me anyway, and I mean, they're crucial to what you teach as well.
They are. I mean, you know, I mean, basically, I mean, and I'm sure the divinity does not torture you, but I'm not sure about torture. I'm not sure about that.
No,
I torture you.
Not that either. Anyway, I just wanted to say that because, you know, I think sometimes when there are incredible things happening for people, when there's entity intrusion, when they're feeling lost, when you combine the safeties with that, and when you know absolutely that Kundalini is not going to do that T word, well then you can just begin to make different choices and not begin from that premise that you're being tortured by Kundalini, because how can you move from that?
Right. Well, you're not.
If you believe that in the first place, you know.
You're not being tortured by the Kundalini, and so really, and you also got to look at how much power you've already put into the relationship with the entity. Excuse me, and how much of that power is currently being used against you because you mistakenly bought into a you know, an entity rather than the Kundalini.
Yeah. And then afterwards, if it takes a while before you realize what's going on, well, then you go back again to your contract with your Kundalini and the safeties. And that's your default.
Yeah, that should be the default position. But I know people sometimes they just want to go into a panic. And their friends want to help them get into a panic, and you know, and then you know they'll get online and they'll go for the most panicky reasoning that they can go into in order to match the energy that they're already feeling, the panicky energy. And so they go for the worst case scenario when it doesn't necessarily require it.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. So there's that. There's that. Now let's see. I'm going to go to. Let's see this person here. Hello, you're on the radio now. Do you feel like commenting on this at all? This would be 347-761-9249. Okay, maybe not. And let's go over to Joey. Joey.
Hello. Yeah.
How are you, Joey?
I am just great, and I'm a little floored by this talk of difficulties. I guess my life has not been too difficult, but I'm willing to
think about it.
do.
Think about it, Joey. Think about it like swimming. Okay, if you can remember the first time you jumped into that pool, that's the level and the degree of difficulty a person might have at having Kundalini. Because it's a completely foreign space. It's a foreign environment. It's natural to us. We're all made of like 78% water, right? But, having the water surround you on the inside as opposed to pushing you out from the inside, so you're on the outside, you're with the water, and you're on the inside with water pushing out, it places you in a different context.
Where I'm with you is this recognition of fear, and that you allow it to make your decisions. It is, to me, that's the whole crux of the matter, to recognize.
Well, the nice thing about you in your particular case, Joey, is that you haven't really signed up specifically to manifest treachery in your life, right?
All right.
But you have signed up for, at least on agreement levels, with certain levels of discarnate activity. And that is where you really need to look at your agreements and open just to the divine. Nothing else. Nothing else should matter to you other than that divine communication, that divine contract with your Kundalini. This is what's happening when you do those safeties every day, and I know you do. You are making a contract with your Kundalini, and slowly but surely she's going to come up into a great level of expression and fruition in you. And so it's good. It's good for you to look at these questions and look at these this level of information that we're talking about in this show, so that you can make some informed understandings.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So do you have any questions about this right now, Joey?
No.
No. Okay.
It's all good.
It's all good. It's all good. I swear, this is the woman, everybody. This is the woman you want to go to for a massage. Wow, she gives the best massage. Oh, my word. Anyway, thank you, Joey. I'm going to put you in the blue.
Thank you.
And there we go. And you were saying, Santara. Right,
so, shall I give out the website now, Chrism?
Yes, please.
Okay. So, hi, everybody. I'm going to do what I do every week, and here goes with the address that you can go to make a donation. It's ascension-kundalini.blogspot.com, and the donate button is there on the right-hand side. And again, we have another one place you can go to. It's kundalini.blogspot.com, and there's a donate button there as well. And all donations are gratefully received and are very much needed to continue with this work. So if you are in a position to donate, if you'd like to donate, please go to either of those addresses and we would very much appreciate it. So that's it, Chrism, for the donation website cases. I do have questions whenever you're ready.
Okay, I just want to relate a story. Back in the 70s and 80s, there was a gentleman who made some of the television programs because he would eat almost anything. He ate a Cessna airplane, literally ate the Cessna airplane. And what he would do is he would particulate the Cessna. And that includes the engine, and that includes the plastics, and that includes the glass, and that includes the metal, all of it, right? He would particulate it and ingest it as a particulate. And that is how he was able to make such a strong and sturdy claim to have been able to eat a television, which he would do the same thing with a TV, a car, a Cessna. I mean, he ate all these things, and he came through it just fine. And I just want people to understand that you're far more sturdy than perhaps you would be given credit for understanding. You're far more able to survive in this toxic environment, which we call the technological West. You are created in such a way as to be able to handle large amounts of soot particulate, of gaseous ingestion, inhalation, of plastic particulate, of fiber particulate. Certainly, if you go out into the environment and you're having different pollens come your way, which can form different fibers within a person. I mean, you are stronger than you know. And if you have the Kundalini, you're even stronger than if you knew how strong you were. You're even stronger than that. Okay? So understand that, and don't have fear that is unnecessary. Fear really just tends to get in the way. It just tends to gum up a lot of the works for you. And I want you to really begin to release your fear. Tika, stop that. Release your fear and allow yourself to have a greater level of serenity over the fear. Okay. So, okay, let's see. Santara.
Yes.
Oh, stand up. So Ravenese is also saying, I feel so sick now. It's unbelievable. Perhaps it's just the Kundalini manifesting this. Well, yeah. Definitely start breathing some fresh air. Get some water in your system. Get some watermelon in your system. If you're having caffeine, definitely stop the caffeine. Realize that when the Kundalini comes up and hits the adrenal glands, you're going to have every reason in the world to fear everything that is in the world. Because that's the whole point. The whole point is the fight or flee response that is being expanded. So look at where you are inside of your awakening equation, Ravenese. Look at where you are with it. Look at what you're taking into yourself. If you're eating soy sauce in the first place, that is so salty. I would really look at things that don't dry up the fluids within you, but support the fluids within you. So have the coconut water, have the watermelon. Watch your electrolytes. Do things that are free, fresh, and natural for yourself. Okay. Okay, my dear Santara, please begin.
Okay. So from the group, Chrism, a question. I am in dream state in my wake. Sometimes I feel like I am going crazy and living in a fantasy. Is this normal within Kundalini, or am I simply going bonkers?
Say it again. Read that question again.
So this person is in a dream state while they are awake.
Oh.
They feel like they're going crazy. Are they living in a
This is normal. This is to be kind of in the hypnagogic state while you're having this opens one up to visions. So in a way, the person is in an elongated visionary psychology right now, an expressive psychology. So this is not wrong. This is not bad. This is very, very helpful for your teachings, for your understandings. You just need to disconnect the ego from this, because it's the ego is the only thing that is scared. Kundalini's not scared. Your nervous system isn't scared. Your body isn't afraid. It's only your ego that is afraid, and that causes everything else to respond in a fear response. And so look at that. Look at that and begin to make your adjustments away from fear. If you're in a visionary state, well, that's a very powerful position to be in. And a person in that kind of a position should really begin to manifest specific levels of opening to the divine within, specific levels of perhaps asking a question. I would say the situation is Chrism and blah, 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 when I found myself in that position, and I don't mean blah, 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 I just mean, I'd say the situation is Chrism and whatever that situation was, while I was in that state, and I would definitely get answers, and I would suggest that person is actually in a very, very powerful position right now, but because they don't have any reference point for it, they're finding it frightening rather than enlightening, and I think that this person should open up to the enlightening aspect of this experience. Over.
Thank you, Chrism. Next question. Ever since I became aware of having Kundalini awakening, I have noticed something unusual. When it is the full moon, I get fuzzy-minded and confused, and I feel like energy is rushing through me. It is always an exhausting 2 to 3 period of each month. Today is a full moon, and I'm extremely agitated, and everything went wrong during my day, yesterday too. Plus, I have read somewhere that a relation does exist between Kundalini and the lunar cycle. Is this true, and is this okay?
It is and it isn't. I mean, Kundalini is like the tides, but it is not the tides, but it can partake of the expression of the tides. And the same thing with the seasons, or the same thing with the end of the month full moon. A person can have levels of interaction, but I mean, are we talking about a male or a female here? If that person is having menstruation, well, some of that can also play into the equation as well. And so, without knowing that, I just want to put that out there, because once again, the PMSing and the different levels of psychology that a person can have affect them, will also go with that. The full moon is, of course, the sacred feminine. She has a great influence on the tides, and so from a gravitational sense, a person can indeed be affected by it very, 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 very subtly. I think there is something to be said for the person having everything go wrong, but I think they may also be giving into a self-completing prophecy too. That, oh my gosh, everything went wrong, and oh, it's the full moon. Oh my gosh, that was it. It was the full moon, Amelia. It wasn't the fact that I lost my car keys and And once I found my car keys, I lost my wallet. And once I found my wallet, I couldn't find my money. And what constitutes having a bad day is basically a lack of mindfulness about what it is you're doing and why you're doing it. I think that the pull of the full moon has typically a very beneficial, positive effect. I was out standing in it last night, and I enjoy it. I've never had a difficult experience with the full moon, so perhaps I'm not the one to ask. How about you, Amelia? Have you had difficulties with the full moon?
No, it's interesting. I don't, Chrism. I'm very attracted to the moon. I love being under it, but I can't say, if anything, it's a very positive thing as well. I feel an expansion of myself, during a full moon. I really enjoy being out in it as well.
Yeah, I like to go moon bathing, when I'm outside of the city environment.
Yeah.
When
I was in Kerry, I did that all the time. And it is just, it's the way we lie in the sun and we feel the rays of the sun on our skin, and it's beautiful. It's the same with the moon. And it's a pity people don't do that more often, if at all. Do people do it at all? Moon bathe?
Yeah, I think it's great. I love it myself. I like to look at the stars, but with a full moon, you have so much light in the sky, you can't see the stars as well. But, I've never had a problem with the moon, and I would be loath to apply a problem with the moon inside of a Kundalini context. I just don't see it happening that way. I think that is probably a self-fulfilling prophecy that the person and the person's ego linked up to a specific planetary event and is using that as a way of finding some sort of reference point. I know other people have that issue. And to answer Ravenese, who's asking again, Ravenese asks, is it a common phenomenon to feel an energetic arch of powerful energy when the tongue is placed upon the roof of the mouth, which may feel like 10,000 volts of energy and induced lingual kriyas? Yes, that is common. That is a common event, and that is why you place that tongue up there. Otherwise, that 10,000 volt happens on your tongue tip, and that's how you get a tongue tip burn. So good for you for placing it up there. And go ahead and continue, Santara. I am waiting.
Okay. A few years back, I would pray for a friend that would get possessed by evil forces. I was scared, to say the least, but she would ask me for prayers, so I did just that. Well, one evening as I walked to the next room, I had this weird sensation. I felt my body light, floating, and everything around me seemed to have a life of its own. Everything was moving in slow motion. I felt my world as seeing it like a third person. It's hard to describe. A few moments later, everything went back to normal, and I wonder to this day what happened. Could you speak about that, please?
Well, I think you found yourself inside of a slow motion camera that was accidentally left on, and when you walked in front of it, you became a slow motion person.
Chrism?
What do you think? No. You're not buying that, are you, Amelia?
I'm not buying that. Well, this has been asked on a Kundalini. That's so mean. This has been asked on a Kundalini group. Therefore,
I know. Okay, all right. It's very much similar to the person that went into the hypnagogic state. Inside of that state, that state that is between the here and now and the there and then, which is, as I discussed before, is a visionary state. A person can have that slow motion thing happening, but you can see the life force around everything. You can see in a way, you can see and feel the purpose of everything, and that purpose comes across as a force of how do you say it? It's like an intelligent force that that gloms the molecules together to form a teapot. It's an intelligent source that makes a glass and fills it with water. It's an intelligent source that puts a carpet together, or paintings on the wall, or things of that nature. And you see and you feel that intelligent force, and it comes through as a force of life, a force of grace. And you can indeed feel that, and it will just as suddenly subside. Just as suddenly subside. And the fact that you've been giving prayers for other people, that you've been going out of your way to give healing and solace to other people, well, that's a huge gift for you. And that alone may have propelled you into that visionary state where you could see things in slow motion and you could experience the gifts of grace as you do that. It doesn't have anything to do with evil spirits. Okay.
Yeah, I was wondering that actually, the association, that maybe the person was concerned about that.
He or she are also, making that association. And before we continue, Ravenese comes back and is saying, okay, these lingual kriyas often advocate my death, oddly enough. Kriyas are not advocating anything. Where are you getting the idea that the kriya is advocating your death? This is amazing. These are entities, Ravenese. You are possessed by entities and you do not listen to what they say. Once again, as I said earlier in this program, if anything is advocating your death or advocating harm to you or advocating corruption towards you, don't believe it. Don't believe it. And don't believe that the Kundalini is reversed. Don't believe it's a devil. Don't believe... Oh, my God. You seem to be taking huge steps backward. Oh, okay. Don't you listen to anything that they say, Ravenese. Nothing. Okay, you've got entities. And those entities are there to test you and test your fear. Why do you think you wound up in bed after having ingested a packet of soy sauce, thinking that you'd had plastic contamination? This is entity stuff. You are being pushed into fear, my friend, and you just stop, giving into that. Stop it. Stop it now. Kundalini is not advocating your death through lingual kriyas. Kundalini isn't reversed. There's no such thing. It's like saying a circle is reversed. Well, a circle isn't reversed because there is no beginning, there is no end. I mean, my word. All right. Now, I apologize. I think I'm being a little rough on you. But you're entering into Kundalini syndrome land, Ravenese. This is where you're going. You're entering into Kundalini syndrome land, and of course you're saying I don't fear anything, but everything that you're asking about is qualities of fear in it. So for you to say that you don't fear anything is kind of silly, but okay. Don't fear anything, and don't fear that which you don't know, and don't fear that which is trying to corrupt you. You take yourself right out of Kundalini syndrome land. Unless you need to go there. Unless you need to go there. Next question, Santara.
Well, can I just say to Ravenese, to listen to Chrism because he has huge experience around this. And Ravenese, you're believing stuff that isn't true. And, what's advocating corruption for you there, everything is so negative and horrible, and that's advocating corruption and you're believing it, and you need to stop believing it and listen to what Chrism is saying, because, you know, you will keep on spiraling and it'll start getting worse and worse because each thing will feed the next thing, will feed the next thing. You need to make a choice to stop and to stop believing.
You'll start living out of your closet, Ravenese, because
yeah.
you'll be so afraid to go outside of your closet. You'll take your meals in the closet. You'll defecate in the closet. You'll do everything out of fear because, I was told that I have plastic toxicity. Or I was told that my lingual kriyas are advocating my death. I mean, this is baloney at best. At best.
Yeah, and the contradiction thing is another thing, you know. You're advocating, you're talking about stuff that is fearful, and at the very same time you're saying, I'm not afraid, but you actually are. So it's a complete contradiction. You say one thing, but the other is also true. And really, you're in trouble if you don't stop.
Serious trouble.
Yeah. So
you need to get out of your fear. Go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. So, you know, it's good that you're here. So, and I suppose, you know, if it sounds very strong, it's because Chrism recognizes, and I do a bit as well, you know, the pattern, because I've seen it a few times in my limited experience. Chrism must have seen it so many times that, you know, trust that what he is seeing in particular, he has seen this pattern before. It's a new pattern for you. You haven't experienced it before, but trust that the Kundalini in Chrism that is speaking knows what he's talking about. And open your ears and listen, please. Okay.
Yeah, you don't need to wallow in these fears. These fears are entity given. The Kundalini does not talk to you in that way. It never advocates death. This is so amazingly false. So amazingly false. Do not listen to any kind of inner voice that is coming to you at this time. You listen only to that which is truthful divine communication with you. Maybe
and when you can't, sorry.
Go ahead.
And when you can't discern that, then, because, you know, you're in a, you know, if you're confused as about what is what and you're not able to discern what's divine communication, what's the default? The safeties.
Ravenese says, thank you so much.
How
I will take all of your words to heart. This may save a life. Thanks. And so please do take these words to heart, Ravenese. This is not true. You are not being guided by Kundalini towards death. You're being guided by entities towards thinking that you have to die for any reason at all. And this is what causes Kundalini syndrome, and this is what can cause a person to suicide. So you stay away from those erroneous advices that are being given to you. You practice the crucible of reversal. Seriously, reverse everything. If they're saying, if the entities through you are saying, oh, the lingual kriyas are designed for your death, well, they're actually designed for your life. So they become life-affirming. You totally don't believe or buy in to anything that these entities are telling you at all. At all. Go ahead, Centaur.
Okay, so there's a question. It's a long question, so I'll read it slowly. It was sent privately. So this lady says, I have a question about a dream I had some hours ago, right before waking up. The dream was mostly nonsense, but one sequence stood out. I was dreaming that I was sitting with my aunt on her veranda when I suddenly saw a blue eye manifesting itself in front of me. The next second, my aunt screamed because there were a lot of spiders crawling up her feet, and she tried panically to brush them away. So that was the dream. Now, in real life, My aunt has cancer, and naturally I've prayed for her healing. She also has nerve damage due to cancer treatment, and she is using a wheelchair while outside. And on top of that, she has type 1 diabetes. Anyway, a couple of weeks ago, she told me that when she was sitting with a friend, her hair got lifted up from her head. She felt it, and her friend saw it. Then she screamed, and the hair fell down, and a black shadow-like ball fell down in front of her onto the floor, also witnessed by the friend. Now, because of the dream, is the Kundalini trying to tell me something about this? Has it something to do with my prayer of healing? Or am I just thinking so much of Kundalini these days that my nonsense dreams are integrating Kundalini into it? Is the scary episode my aunt experienced for real? Something to take into consideration here. Not sure what to make of this. Thank you.
Okay. There is no such thing as a nonsense dream inside of a Kundalini equation. No such thing. And so for her to just casually brush that off is to basically wipe out a whole level of teaching, wisdom, and information that they are being offered. And so this is very important understanding for her to not do. Just because it doesn't make sense to her ego mind doesn't mean that it doesn't make sense within a Kundalini continuum. The spiders are telling her that her aunt is in the hands of the divine. She is fully enmeshed in a spider web of the divine. She is being held by the divine. She's also being assisted in a way of letting go of negativity by the divine, that black shadow coming out of her. And interesting how it landed on the floor, because they're not really gravitationally oriented. But I think it was placed upon the floor as a form of taking it into the ground so that the earth could metabolize that negativity. So I think that, yes, your prayer is very powerful, and keep giving your prayer to your aunt. The blue eye that happened at the beginning of the dream, right before the spiders, is an indication of Kundalini being present in this scenario. And the spiders are the very, very, very next step of validation that the Kundalini is indeed involved with her health, and with her stability upon this world. So, and longevity for this world as well. And so she is in the hands of the divine. You continue your prayer. You need to understand there's no such thing as nonsense in a dream state while a person is inside of Kundalini. It is just waiting to be interpreted, and you need to let go of your judgment of what you consider is nonsense and what isn't. Many things within a Kundalini context would not make sense to a person that does not have the Kundalini. And if this person is still looking at Kundalini phenomena, or certainly the dream state phenomena, as nonsensical because they don't understand it, well, then maybe it's time they stop looking at it with the expectation of it making logical, linear sense. Kundalini often doesn't make logical or linear sense, regardless. Over.
Okay. Thank you, Chrism. Next question. I was wondering if medication interferes with the Kundalini process. I've been taking antipsychotics and antidepressants for a year now. I tried quitting my medication 3 days ago, and the results were not good. If meds freeze the process, then I have to figure out a way to stop taking them. If the healing still continues while I'm on them, then I can take them. Okay, so the question is, the question is, I suppose, does the medication interfere with the Kundalini process, and how could a person begin to change that?
Yes. The medications certainly of an SSRI nature, will have a direct interference with the Kundalini, for sure. How do you rectify that? Well, you talk to your MD or your healthcare practitioner industrial representative, and you say, I want off of these drugs, and they will give you a way to come off them very, very slowly. It's not like you've been taking aspirin for a week and you can just stop taking aspirin. A lot of these drugs are designed to take over the person, to facilitate specific levels of chemical bondage that the person cannot operate very clearly or mindfully without that drug. And so when you take yourself off of them, cold turkey, well, you're not going to be able to manage your life very well. It can be very dangerous. It can be very hurtful. And so you must talk with your industrial healthcare representative and determine a way to what they call titrate off of these drugs in a very slow and controlled manner. Over.
Okay, thank you, Chrism. Actually, the next question you've answered really. It was how to differentiate a Kundalini dream from a non-Kundalini normal dream. So I suppose you answered that really, didn't you, with the last question?
Okay.
So
Moving on.
I'm tap dancing. 1 minute. So, the last question, I think. Oh no, there was another dream question actually. I had a dream in which I was late to take my exam. After some time in another dream, I was trying to write in my exam and I could not write. And last night in my dream, I could not find the pencil, the eraser, or the sharpener to take my exam. Could you please give me any idea of the meaning of this dream, these exam dreams?
Say again?
The whole lot?
Yep.
Okay. Right. I had a dream in which I was late to take my exam. After some time in another dream, I was trying to write my exam and I could not write. And last night in my dream, I could not find the pencil, the eraser, or the sharpener to take my exam. Could you give me any idea of the meaning of these exam dreams?
Yeah, for this person, everything's getting in the way of them taking the test, which when I responded to that is basically they're not ready to take the test. The time is not right for them to take the test. And so there's either more studying that needs to be done, more writing, i.e. the pencil being gone, more of an understanding coming into the body through the act of writing with a pencil, and basically getting better prepared for that test, and then I'm sure they'll be able to take it. Over.
Okay. So the last thing is about the radio show. A lady listening to the radio show, and she says, I was wondering about the Aum. I've been listening to Chrism's radio shows, and when I hear the sound, and it has happened, that I almost go into a trance, for the want of a better word. It's like my brain gets sedated, and it's a really good feeling. My head fell down against my chest, and this took me by surprise. I'm very curious how this sound can affect me in such a way.
It's the Kundalini in my voice that will do that. The Kundalini knows itself in any and all the people who hear it. So Kundalini is a living, sentient, divine source. And so anybody that hears the Kundalini, geez Louise, who's pinging here? Is that you, Santara? Are you pinging?
I'm pinging.
All right, I'm going to put you in the blue here. Anything that is of a pro-Kundalini nature in any way, the Kundalini itself will go to that person, whether or not the person is given permission, whether or not a person knows of Kundalini. The divine does not need permission from you. Let me say that again. The divine does not need your permission to come to you. And so it will come, and it will manifest a certain level of phenomena upon you. And having your chin fall forward is just basically a beginning infusion of understanding of the grace that this person is embracing. The very fact that they're listening to the radio program is an indication that they either have the Kundalini or they're beginning to move into Kundalini awareness. And this is a validation that the Kundalini awareness is moving into them. Remember, this is not just a path that you walk. It's a path that walks you. And this would be a form of the path that is walking that individual as it comes through my voice and into her awareness. Okay, Santara, you're back. Is that the last one?
That was the last one, Chrism, yes.
Okay, well, I'm going to go over here to the chat room now, and I'm going to bring it right back up. Of course, they're all writing in it, so you can't really do anything there because you can't keep your space with it. And so Ravenice is back. This is the person that feels they were toxified by a package of soy sauce. And Cole, if you could just stop typing for a second, please. Let's see. No, I am just sick. Yeah, okay. So Ravenice is saying, no, I'm just sick and I'm being told these things. And goes on to say, since my awakening, I hurt so bad. I barely want to even survive anymore. What do I do? Well, the first thing I want you to do, Ravenice, is I really want you to take a deep breath, and I want you to begin to understand that the voices that you've been hearing, the intuition that you've been receiving is incorrect. That in and of itself, that agreement to let those entities talk through you can have a deleterious effect upon the body. So stop letting them communicate with you. Stop letting them corrupt your process. Seriously, stop it. And as you move away from this, so will the pain move away from you. The pain you've invited in because you've invited something that would corrupt your process in such a way that you would feel like you'd even want to take your life. You say, barely want to even survive anymore. What do I do? Well, you stop believing the information source that up to this point you've been believing. And what I would do if I were you, Ravenice, is I'd stay off of the internet. You're being given to go to all the wrong websites. You're being guided to go into Kundalini syndrome where you could take your life. So you stay off the internet except for perhaps going into the safeties and looking at that. Okay? Trust your Kundalini. Don't trust the entities. And Cole is saying, he says, oh no, this isn't him. So this is another person. This is Mr. Max. Mr. Max is saying that they only have they've made a contract with an entity, and that they only have so much time in the day to reverse this contract. In the periods in between that I need to rest, I would like to be free of as much fear during these times so my progress does not get impeded for this purpose. Well, that's the choice. That's your choice, Max. You choose how much fear you allow to get into your equation. You choose this. And let me tell you, if you let those entities take an inch and they will take a mile. And so you need to be very, very, very careful about what it is you're believing and why. If you have a flesh teacher, you just go for the flesh teacher. And don't go to the flesh teacher just because you're having a scary night. Find a backbone and face those fears. It's not going to be easy. It's not going to be easy. But the more you do it, the easier it gets. Max continues. He says, I was considering buying a breathing device that can breathe for me during these times, only so I do not fall backwards. I have seen how fear takes hold and really stops the gears turning. Well, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. And Max continues, it's very sapping, even if I do not buy into it. And he continues, I was given this idea when praying to his flesh teacher's picture. I also understand that it may be an entity offering this suggestion, but I've tested it with a person with a straw and a family member blowing into my nose, and it seems to work. Max, I was given that same vision for you. I was given the same vision that a CPAP could be a good breathing mechanism for you, and I want to encourage you to get the full-on setup, put it on, and let it do that work for you, but do not let it become a crutch for you. Let it assist you, but you still must do the hard work to get that entity out of your throat and to open that airway, from a more authentic standpoint. Okay. So I'm not sure what that face means, but okay. It's like somebody's got a dental problem. All right. So there we have it. Santara, do you have any last words for this Kundalini Awakening Conversation program?
Well, I suppose with regard to entities, Chrism, I would say, if you have a flesh teacher, yes, listen to your teacher, but also, you're the one that needs to do the work. Your teacher can't do it for you. You can't just, pick up the phone, as it were, every time it gets difficult. You really have to do the work. And it's not even that a person might be lazy, or maybe it is, but in terms, it's that you have to find the courage within yourself, and you have to find the fearlessness within yourself, because after all, that's part of the testing. So, listen to your teacher, but you really have to do the work yourself.
Indeed.
That would be my final words.
I echo that. You have to lift a finger. You can get as much information, but if you don't put that information to work for you, it's useless information.
Yeah.
So put that information to work. Do not allow yourself to be manipulated into Kundalini syndrome. Max, that breathing machine can help you, but it's just there to help you. It's not there to cure you. So, Max, you have to do the hard work of going into a hypnagogic state and confronting that entity and basically removing it from yourself. Removing it from yourself, my friend. Okay, well, let me see, what you're writing on something. Yes, I'm going to go ahead and put you in the blue here. And here we go, everybody. This show is closing about 6.5 minutes early. And I just want to say thank you, everybody, for sticking with us. Guest 1133, Helly, Manisha, Mary Jean, Vincent, and Cole. And blessings to everybody who is listening to us in the archives. Blessings to everyone who is listening to us on the telephone or on their computer or in the chat room, or who have called in, Joey and Eileen and some of the other folks that have called in, Josephine. So thank you very much, and I will see you at this time next week. Here we go.